So, Jiggy, I want to ask you about the crease. Obviously, it's a big topic of conversation in this market. Anthony Stolarz has been incredible. I thought you were the perfect fit to come on and talk about what it's like to be a goaltender in Toronto, first and foremost.
Well, obviously everybody knows it's not easy to be a goalie in Toronto, a number one goalie in Toronto, even harder. But I think as it is right now, it's kind of a tandem. The pressure is somewhat equally on both of the goalies, and I couldn't tell you right now who's going to be my number one goalie comes playoffs. So I think that's a good thing for the Maple Leafs. That means that two young goalies, the two goalies that don't have a whole lot of experience, will fight each other to get some ice time, and that means they're going to be ready to play every night. Every time they're going to have to play, they're going to be ready, and that's a good thing for that team.
And Jiggy, being as they are switch hitting and being a tandem right now, and it seems to be working just fine, would you just continue that right into the playoffs if that were the case, or do you think you want to have a number one emerge when you hit that point in the season?
I would keep it going as long as I can, and hopefully one of them will take the lead eventually before the playoffs, and if that doesn't happen, then you're just going to have to make a decision and, see who had the better season comes playoff. But both of them don't have a whole lot of experience in playoffs, so that doesn't really matter, really. I think you want to let them fight for it, at the same time. I think both of them should be nice and ready and rested when playoff comes. So overall, I think that's a good problem for the Leafs. They have two goalies that are actually doing the job. Hasn't seen that since probably 2010, right? When I was there.
Very true. Very true.
I'm
Considering you
kidding.
lived it,
It's true.
what advice would you give to like any present Leafs goalie? We just talked about the fact that you've lived it. It's a different animal, obviously being the goaltender in Toronto, whether you're number three, a number two, or a number one. What advice would you give to like a Wool or a Stolarz right now?
Well, the number one advice, and I think it's harder today because of technology and all that. But you got to leave all the chatter, all the noise aside. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen. You're gonna give up bad goal. You're gonna have maybe a bad game or a bad week, and it doesn't mean your season has to go to hell after that. So you have to, stay strong mentally. Don't read the unimportant stuff. Just be focused on your game. Be focused on what you have to do to be successful. Don't be, I think it's important to have a good relationship between the two goalie. Of course, both of them want to play. That's the nature of the game. You want to be in the crease. You want to fight for ice time. It doesn't mean the guy beside you is a bad guy for that. He just wants the same thing as you do. So that's normal. You can help each other trying to be a number one goalie. We saw that last year in Boston, where two goalies push each other to be a number one. And I think it's very important to have a good chemistry between the two goalie. And then, they're going to hear as the season's going to go, the Leafs goaltending doesn't have any experience in playoff. That doesn't matter. Experience, I had zero experience my first time I went to the playoff and we went to the finals. So, it doesn't always have to do with experience. I think if you go in there and you're prepared and you're ready, you should be able to do the job anyway.
Mhm. What do you think about who you go to? Do you think it's just an even just switch hit one after the other and just switch it? Or like, for example, this week, Stoley was a major factor in that win against New Jersey. I mean, they didn't deserve to win one iota, and they did strictly because of Stoley. Now he's playing again here against kind of an inferior opponent with the Ducks. Is there any rhyme or reason you'd stick? Do you stick to a hot hand, or if you're playing this back and forth thing, do you like it better if you just literally switch hit these guys?
I don't like the switch hit. I think you got to put a little bit of pressure for them to perform. You know what I mean? And then if it means that when you have a good game, and it doesn't have to be a win. Sometimes you win a game and you don't actually play well. So the coach have to be, along with his goalie coach, they have to have communication and see, okay, who we're going to play today. But I wouldn't, like if a guy is playing well, he's hot, I would play him 2-3 games, but then I would go back to the other one. Now make sure that you don't sit on the bench for 2 weeks, because that's unfair too to a guy that's probably not playing, not because he's not playing well, just because the other guy is playing well. So you have to play with that a little bit. If somebody gives you an amazing game, you get to play him again. I think I like that. I think at the end of the day, it's about performance. You're supposed to perform. You're supposed to play well, and you get to reward that when it happens.
Jiggy, we talk about it a lot on this podcast, how much teams talk about, like, for example, Stolarz played for the Anaheim Ducks. Like, how much of that conversation is had on a daily basis between a goalie and a coach and trying to pick starts for a guy? Is it even a conversation?
I think it's part of it a little bit, but I don't know that they make their final decision based on that. You always love to play against your old team. You always love to that extra challenge. It makes the game a lot more fun. You're a lot more prepared and ready to play those games. But at the end of the day, if you're not playing well, you might not want to play that game too. And be embarrassed in front of your old team. So there's part of it. I think it's more, the main thing would be if you go home in your hometown, then that's the game you really want to play. You want to play in front of your parents, in front of your family. And if I'm a coach, you have nothing to lose when you do that. The kid's going to be ready. He might not have a good game at the end of the day, but the kid's going to be ready to go, ready to play because everybody wants to play well in front of their parents or their family. You want to do the same in front of your old team, but it's not quite the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Jiggy, last one for me. I just wanted to pick your brain. There's a lot of conversation these days in this era about, goaltenders never playing back to backs and they barely, play, the number one guy gets a lot of rest. Where in your day, you've played as many as 65 games in a season and 58 before and 56 and 60. You were the number one guy and you play almost every night unless there's a reason not to. What's your thoughts on all the rest these goalies get as a starter, particularly not playing back-to-back games?
You know what? I played a lot in those days, and I hated the back to back. They're hard. No matter what, you go to the hotel or you go home and you have a hard time falling asleep. The next day, you're just kind of struggling, trying to get your energy back up to be able to play another 60, 65 minutes. So, always had a hard time in those back to back. I always feel like if you have a good backup, a good tandem, then it's a good time to play that goalie. You have at least have 15 games during the season that that you're gonna give to that guy, and you need to have two goalies at the end of the day. If an injury happens, you need to have your backup ready to play and take over if something happens. So, those are a good occasion to do that to me, and I don't know. I didn't like them. I think every once in a while a young goalie should taste that, because you should know what it feels like too. At the end of the day, if once come the end of the season, if you have to fight for playoff, you need your number one goalie in there. So you have to make sure that as a young goalie, you have a taste of it, see what it's like. But if you have two good goalies like the Leafs do, I would never go back to back. There's no need for it.
Where do you stand on the Vezina conversation? Obviously, Connor Hellebuck has been out of this world for the Winnipeg Jets, but we're trying to make some noise, of course, for Anthony Stolarz, 9-5-2, 2.13, a 928, one shutout. The example I would use, as you brought up, was Linus Ullmark a couple of years ago. I think split the bill with Jeremy Swayman, still won the Vezina Trophy. Where do you stand in general with the Vezina? Like, how many appearances do you need to have a guy as a legitimate contender in the conversation?
Well, I like a goalie that is a true number one goalie. That really like played well over 50 games, 55 games. That means that you really had an input in your teams, and if you weren't there, your team wouldn't be where they're at right now. So I think that's what Hellebuck does in Winnipeg, year in, year out. So to me, uh, yeah, I don't want to take away from a tandem. I think that's great, and I think if I had to build a team, probably this is where I would want to go. Have two strong goalies and let them fight for ice time. But as far as the Vezina is concerned, I think you should have a fair amount of game played to be a contender. Not that he doesn't deserve it, and I know in Toronto people will cheer for him, and that's awesome. But I would like him to play a lot of games for sure.
That's fair. That's fair. And again, Connor Hellebuck has been out of this world. So has Philip Gustafson so far for the Minnesota Wild. Just before we let you go, excelling here in the YouTube chat. That's his handle. Ask JS his favorite goalie partner of his career. Who's your answer?
I had many good goalie partner, and I really got along with most of them. I had the monster Gustafson in Toronto. Was a great guy. Martin Gerber was a good friend of mine. He'd come down in Montreal to work out in the summer. I had Brizgalov, which is a different bird, but he was so good, and I had to work so hard just to keep my number one job. So that was always interesting to have him. Jonas Seller was a great guy too. A guy that really challenged me at being more athletic. Like I say, I think it's very important to have a good relationship with your goalie partner, because you all, both of you want the same thing, and it would be easy to be pissed. It would have been easy in the days to be pissed at Briz and like not like him, but it wouldn't have brought me anywhere. So it's a tough question, because I had a good relationship with all of them. If I had to pick one, I'd say maybe Gerber, because we had a good times together.
So many name drops there. I love
I
that,
know,
Jiggy.
I know.
That's great stuff, man. Thank you so much for your time today. Great breakdown. You did exactly what I thought you would do here on the podcast. So I really, really appreciate your time. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Sorry for being late, and take care,
All
guys.
good.
Thanks,
All
Jiggy.
right.
Appreciate it.
See you.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.